week. Let's hear from him now. The voice of the 49ers, Greg Papa, joining me, Jason Ross. Greg, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jason. Where's David today?
You know, he's roaming around the country. Who knows? We can't. He's in parts unknown, I think, at this point.
All right. He was a little anxiety last week when we spoke, so I was wondering what you guys thought of the New England win. And this is a big week for the 49ers. I think by the time, hopefully Dave comes back next week because we miss him. By the time we chat next Friday, I think the 49ers, I know the plan is they got to go out and play, and the players don't think that way and the coaches, but we can. To be in first place in the NFC West, win this game on Sunday at home against Arizona, and we got a game next Thursday against Seattle. They lost, played great offensively, had a lot of guys hurt on defense Monday night in Detroit. So they're 3-1, even if they win their game this week and we go there and beat them and get to 4-2 and, beat them head to head, the Niners will be in first place in the West.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's all out there for them. Let's start, Greg, first with, I thought last week's game, it took a little while to get going, but once they got going, they were great. And I thought that play by Warner was as good of a play that you can have. But let's stick with Fred Warner. He gets a little bit of an ankle injury, hasn't practiced this week. What do you think his outlook is for Sunday?
Well, I don't know. He initially rolled that right ankle, Chase, the week before in L.A. against the Rams when they ran that 2-2 Atwell jet sweep pass down the field that wound up being incomplete. And he came out after that, or it was a long delay. So that's where he did it initially. I don't know. I know that play was exhausting for Fred. The interception, the way he went up and caught it, landed on his backside and popped up and ran and dove for the pylon. And by the way, Kyle does not like when they extend the ball going for the pylon. Only on fourth down are you allowed to do that, because if you miss and the ball goes, out the end zone for a touchback, they get the ball back. So that's kind of a no-no, but he's an offensive player. He hasn't done anything in practice this week, nothing, just running on the side and not moving well. From what I understand, it's strictly a pain tolerance situation, and it's likewise the same for George Kittle. So they have a way to numb out pain right before kickoff, and I know George did use that remedy to get back in the game in the second half. Fred used a milder one and couldn't get back in on Sunday, so you may have to do it a couple of times. Sometimes they last 6 hours, sometimes they last a couple hours. So I think the plan is, since they can't cause any more injury to the ankle or the ribs, is for Fred and George to find a way to tolerate pain and go out and play on Sunday.
I'm sure it's been discussed, and I don't know if you're privy. Would there be any discussion of, not that you take any games off, that's not my question, but the importance of Seattle's game on a shorter week? Would playing this week do any damage on a short week to get them ready for next week? What's kind of the discussion there?
Yeah, I think that's a consideration. And what I'm saying is coming down to a Sunday morning decision.
Yeah.
He didn't do anything. Neither one of them practiced with the team at all. But they're both good enough and been around enough where, in theory, as long as they're going to all their meetings, and I know they are, they could go play on Sunday morning. But to your point, you got to come back, 96 hours later, whatever it is, and play a game on Thursday night in Seattle. So, what would that do to the ankle? It's not a high ankle, so you're not worrying about that. It's just the pain of it. So would you take a pain-killing injection, noon on Sunday to play in the game on Sunday, and then come back and take another one on Thursday at 5 o'clock or 4:30 to play in that game? I don't know if they want to do that. So that would be the consideration, is how do you numb the pain? I guess it's possible you could stretch out, it would cause the ankle sprain to get worse or be more prone to roll it. So that's what they're debating right now. So, but I think the plan is to, try to deal with the pain on Sunday and play, and then worry about Thursday. But they may decide to do what you're saying, and that is not do it, take Sunday off, come back and try to be as close to possible on Thursday, and maybe play Thursday without having to take any painkillers.
Talk with Greg Papa, the voice of the 49ers. Greg, let's look at Arizona, a team record-wise 1-3, convincing rout of the Rams. I was actually impressed with their opening week performance against Buffalo. hung with Detroit last week, really got humbled. But when you look at them offensively, I think when Kyler Murray's right, he can create some problems. Though the Niners have done a really good job against him in the past. Harrison Jr. is a nice dynamic receiver. When you look at them, what are some of the things that you think might give the Niners some concern this week?
Well, James Conner, their running back, first and foremost. That guy has run all over the Niners throughout his career. He's just been terrific. I remember a game when they came in like 21, I think it was, and they just ran all over the Niners, and he was the main guy. So he's a big back, 233 pounds. He'll be next to Kyler in the shotgun. They ride that mesh point, so you got to tackle him. And then you got to deal with Kyler and all the run stuff, Chase, off of that action. And they're good at it with the mesh point. So you got to stay, whatever the call is on the ends in particular, if he pulls it in the zone read and keeps it. And they got a different, call whether or not the defensive end takes the running back or the defensive end stays home to take the quarterback. If the defensive end just slants down the line and takes the running back, then somebody else has to spill a linebacker or a safety or a corner, somebody from the next level to take Kyler. So they'll play it different ways. And then you got to deal with Kyler as a straight drop back quarterback. And that's where he's a problem. And the Niners have had historically here and there. They are, Kyler's only 2-4 against the Niners. And I remember, they won the last 4 convincingly. He didn't play in the game in Mexico City. He was still coming back from the ACL. But, he's elusive and he's tough to get out. And the Niners sometimes have had a hard time with running quarterbacks like Russell Wilson. I remember Daniel Jones of the Giants in the pandemic year having a big zone read, pull and a run. And there have been others that have, Marcus Mariota, remember how well he played against the Niners in Atlanta. So he's that kind of guy. And now he's got weapons. He's got Marvin Harrison Jr. That's Marvin Harrison's son. And he looks like his dad, just bigger, stronger. And his dad would always line up on the offensive right to Peyton Manning, and Reggie Wayne went left, and they never motioned, they never moved. Marvin Harrison Jr. is everywhere. He's an X, he's a Z, he's an F, which is a slot. They move him a lot. He's big and strong. He looks like a 10-year veteran. They got a really good tight end in Trey McBride, who missed last week's game against Washington with a concussion, but he made a full practice yesterday, so he'll be good to go. So this is on paper, and they got Michael Wilson, a good young receiver from Stanford, who scored 2 touchdowns against the Niners last year, Jason. This is a very good weapon offense. You look at the high draft picks they have in Kyler, they have in Marvin Harrison Jr., they've also got Greg Dortch, more of a slot guy, the tight end, the running back. Their offensive line's decent. They're big. I think, Nick can win on the outside against Paris Johnson Jr. and Kelvin Beachum, and they got Will Hernandez inside as kind of a mauler, Froholt at center, and Evan Brown. So they look on paper to be a good offensive team, but they have been sputtering here and there. And then on the other side of the ball, they have a really hard time stopping the run. And, if you can't stop the run, Kyle Shanahan will run at 30, 35. Can he get to 40 runs in this game on Sunday?
Well, and on that note, how impressed have you been? I know it's, hey, when you don't have McCaffrey, you put the next guy in, and the run scheme and the system is very effective. But Mason's doing it every week. I mean, another 100-yard game last week. Just what are your thoughts on what he's been able to do consistently, and kind of what you just said about the Cardinals' inability to stop the run so far? Sounds like he might have a chance to have a big game.
Kyle will run it. They'll run it all different ways if they can't stop the run. He's second in the NFL to Derrick Henry in yards. He's number 1 in rushing attempts. He's number 1 in the NFL in broken tackles, Chase. He has 34 this year. He's just a mauler. He's a tackle breaker. He had a couple of runs where he didn't read exactly where to go on Sunday. So as good of a game as he had, it could have been even better. But what I like is he's starting to show a little something out of the backfield. He's not McCaffrey, and really nobody is. But he had a nice choice route where he ducked over the middle and made a really nice catch outside of the framework of his body. And then he kind of looked like CMC. He turned the corner and got down the right sideline. He ran it all the way in the end zone for a touchdown. But George Kittle got called for a hold on that play, and they nullified it. There was another one where they gave him a choice route over the middle, and he had a decent gain against it. He's not McCaffrey. He's a 4.58 guy, but obviously as a runner, he's tough, breaks tackles, always forward lean. But he had a couple of plays where if you just don't honor him coming out of the backfield, he will hurt you. kind of like Jeff Wilson Jr. did when he was here and got better and better at it. And they've been taking him off the field. If he wants to stay on the field for third down, he's obviously a first and second down back, but they've been taking him off the field on third down and bringing in Kyle Juszczyk. A lot of it is to go what they call 11 juice, which is Kyle Juszczyk's the lone back, and they have three receivers on the field, Ayuk and Debo and Juwan Jennings. So it's more formations, but it's also we're going to leave Juice in the block and pick up a blitzer. We don't know if we trust you in that regard, and you're not really involved in the pass game, JP Mason. But if he makes a couple of catches here and there, then he'll find his way. He's playing a lot right now, obviously, but he'll find his way on the field even more if he can stay on the field and be available as a pass catcher on third down.
Yeah, I was thinking about, obviously everybody wants to see McCaffrey come back. Hopefully that time will be sooner than later as the Niners wait for him. And we know what he can do, but even if the Niners wanted to lessen the load of what McCaffrey has done over the last couple of years, they still got to play Mason, right? A little bit, at least enough when McCaffrey comes back?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'd like to see him also. And they got so many eligibles. They got Juszczyk, Eric Saubert's a good tight end. They got the three wide receivers. They are going to get Ricky Pearsall Jr. back in the coming game. So, that's another wide receiver. So you can't have more than 5 eligibles on the field. They don't allow you to play with 12 and 13 players. You got to have 5 offensive linemen. Although maybe Kyle will get creative and put like Debo at right tackle or something. I don't know. And you got to have a quarterback, Although you could go Wildcat, but the point is that like some teams call it rocket formation, or they have different terms for it, where you put 2 running backs on the field. How about lining up J.P. Mason as a fullback?
Mm-hmm.
Put Christian McCaffrey in the eye and have J.P. be in an offset position, or have McCaffrey go in motion out and leave J.P. I mean, J.P. Mason's playing well enough right now to get snapped. So hopefully we have that problem coming up and Christian comes back in the coming games, maybe before the end of the month. But yeah, they've done that before, where they call it that rocket formation, where you got basically 2 halfbacks in the game.
You mentioned Pearsall. His story is amazing as he continues his recovery, and it sounds like he's very close. How do you envision, Greg, them using the rookie once he's available?
Everywhere. He's such a good athlete, Jason. He is just remarkable. He runs routes as well, or better than anybody on this team. Better than Brandon Ayuk and better than certainly Juwan Jennings. I'm not going to say he's better than that because he hasn't proven he can get off of press coverage in the NFL. We only see it in OTAs and mini camps. He didn't play in the preseason at all. And his own teammates are not going to beat him up. So, but he looks like, I've seen a couple of situations where they tried to be physical with him, and his feet are just so quick that if you don't get a jam on him, he is by you. And he's going to be by you anyway. So he's tough. But his body's got to get back. He didn't condition for a long time. He had to shut it down.
Right.
And it wasn't just the bullet wound. His body got beat up. He was in a street fight. So he's got other parts of his body that have got to heal. So I think right now, conditioning, he's just not there. He's just starting to run about a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And he's running routes, they got the catapult system. They could, the GPS system where they can see how fast he's running. And, can he come back and his body recover? He's not in that kind of shape he was in before because he had to shut it down for a long time to heal from everything, not just physically, but emotionally, psychologically, after what he went through on August 31st. So, but he's trending in the right direction. He won't play in this game. They got some injuries in the wide receiving core. Jacob Cowling right now is a major question mark, and Chris Conley. So they may have to bring up a wide receiver from the practice squad like Trent Taylor may come up to return punts. But Ricky Pearsall's time would come. I think because there's not a lot of practice before the Thursday game in Seattle, that would be unlikely to get him out there. But you never know. But I would think the game to look at would be October the 20th when the Kansas City Chiefs come to Levi's. And they played the Niners a lot of man coverage in the Super Bowl. They don't have L'Jarius Sneed anymore. He's now a Tennessee Titan, but they got McDuffie. They like to play man against the Niners. They think they can win. That would be time to break out your man buster and have Ricky Pearsall Jr., who runs man routes so well, maybe make his debut against the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I think it's after this week, Greg, against the Cardinals. It's not until week 15 that the Niners play a team below 500. Now, granted, schedules and records could change, but that schedule is going to get much more difficult. But when you're a team that thinks you can win the Super Bowl, I don't know that the schedule has that same kind of impact maybe on a team that's, fighting to get to the playoffs.
Well, they're not just fighting to get in there. They want to be a high seed. They want to play home games. And that Ram game just kind of lays there. They should be 3-1.
Right.
But they're not. They're 2-2. And I think they can overcome that, but maybe they can't. Maybe they won't be a 1 seed this year. And if the other teams win, you got to go on the road for a championship game or, right now Seattle's in first place. So I think after this stretch, though, you got, Arizona Sunday, Seattle on the short week on Thursday, then the 2 home games, Kansas City, Dallas. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. Obviously, they find a way to win. How good is Dallas right now? Can they stop the run? Then you got your bye week. And even though Tampa Bay lost last night, boy, Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans and that offense looked amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got to play Seattle again. And then you got that tough trip at Green Bay, at Buffalo, right around Thanksgiving. Green Bay is the Sunday before Thanksgiving, and Buffalo is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And those will be, obviously cold weather games. So, yeah, I know what you're saying. We've been looking at the post-bye portion of the schedule as though it's going to be tough. And then you got the Rams coming in later, then go to Detroit. And who knows, if you can get enough of these wins, maybe the game against the Lions is for the number 1 seed. But as I say, by the time you and I speak and Dave's back next Friday, let's just hope the Niners are 4-2 and in first place in the NFC West. If they win these next 2 games, they will be.
Yeah, 2 quality wins that would be if they could get it. Greg, have a great call this weekend. We appreciate your time as always, and we look forward to talking to you and see where they are next Friday.
Thank you, Jason. David, we'll talk to you next Friday.
That's right. He'll be back. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you, brother.
All right. Thank you. That's the voice of the 49ers, Greg Papa. Of course, you can hear all the Niner games right here on Sactown.